history of Ireland is rich in fact and legend, struggle and triumph, idealism and achievement. It is the story of an invulnerable faith. Every city, town and village is steeped in historic drama, such as the brave story of Drogheda, the famous town on the Boyne. It was here, at the mouth of the Boyne, that St. Patrick arrived over 1,500 years ago. St. Patrick sailed into the river and landed at Inverculper, just below Drogheda, at the Bridge of the Ford, as Drogheda was then called, and he received a great welcome. From Drogheda he made his way along the valley to Slane, and was impressed by the ready acceptance of the faith by the people. On the hill overlooking Slane, he lighted the first Paschal fire in Ireland. Some idea of the civilization St. Patrick found in Ireland can be gained from descriptions of the great mounds and earthworks still to be seen in the Boyne Valley. New Grange has been named as one of the most important prehistoric monuments in the world, and with Douth and Knowth constitutes a constructional plan associated in early Irish literature with Bruna Boyne, the burial place of the kings of Tara. It is thought this entrance passage leads to the tomb chamber. Here the goddess of the river Boyne was believed to dwell with the Dagda, the Irish Jupiter. Through the centuries, nature has lovingly covered the remains with trees and grass, hiding examples of the skilled and patient craftsmanship. Seen from a height, the mounds give some indication of the large area covered at this memorable period. In Drogheda, long before it became a walled town, old bardic tales refer to a mound, later known as Millmount, in the plain of Mar Bra. Here in the 9th century, Turgesius the Dane had his fortress headquarters. The Martello Tower on the summit is of more recent date. 3 stone crosses stand amid the ruins of Monaster Boyce, a corruption of the Latin Monasterium Boecii, Monastery of Boetius, who lived in the 5th and early part of the 6th century. With the acceptance of Christianity, monastic life began to play an important part in the establishing of the church in Ireland. Abbot Muiredach's cross is of great merit in design and execution, the figures representing lessons from the scriptures. The name of the craftsman has long been lost, but the carved figures remain after 1,000 years. The practice of erecting such crosses is peculiar to Ireland and Great Britain. The North Cross is probably the oldest. The stem became so badly corroded that it was recently replaced. The tower was built later than the crosses. 110 feet high, it served both as bay and lookout against the invader. Though Monaster Boyce suffered destruction, the work of the monks continued. At Mellifont, a few miles away, the first community of Cistercians in Ireland was established in 1142. Today, experts are working amidst the ruins, excavating the original buildings which will be preserved for all time. Mellifont was built in compliance with instructions given by St. Bernard. In 1157 the church was consecrated. Although the years between have brought upheaval and poverty, the Cistercians never ceased to work. Mellifont rises again at Colon, a few miles along the valley. An empty mansion was acquired, the church built, and the grounds are being cleared. They are planning the erection of the great monastery New Mellifont, which will consolidate the Cistercian order in these parts more firmly than ever before. Drogheda contained many abbeys. On the left is the Magdalen Tower, all that remains of the Dominican abbey founded in 1224 Custometabile. On the west side stood the friary, built by the Augustinians, still known as the Old Abbey. It is thought to be the site of a monastery founded by St. Patrick, later destroyed by the Danes. The first fortifications around Drogheda were embankments of earth, stone walls superseding them in 1279 when strong gates were built into them. Only St. Lawrence's Gate stands, one of the most perfect examples of old Irish gateways. Named after the friary of St. Lawrence, which stood outside the walls and extended to green hills, the gate dates from the 12th century. At the foot of Millmount, on the Meath side of the river, stand the remains of Buttergate, or Westgate as it was then called. The name is derived from buttress. Some hold that butter is a corruption of the Irish word boher, butter, a road. Outside the walls, on the edge of the sea, stands the Maiden Tower, of Elizabethan age, once a lookout and signal station. Tragedy came to Drogheda in 1649 with the arrival of Cromwell's army at the walls of the town. Held at bay for some days, he finally broke through at this point, and his treatment of those within was merciless. But the faith of St. Patrick is invulnerable, and in Drogheda's West Street stands the Plunkett Memorial, tribute to a great and saintly man. 20 years after Cromwell's massacre, Dr. Plunkett returned to Ireland from his studies in Rome to become Archbishop of Armagh. Working against time, he held 2 synods and 2 ordinations, and within a month administered the sacrament of confirmation to more than 10,000 persons. Archbishop Plunkett was arrested and charged with plotting to overthrow the civic authority. The trial failed, and he was called to London on a charge of high treason. False evidence and paid witnesses resulted in the Archbishop being found guilty. Dragged through the London streets to Tyburn in July 1681, he was hanged, drawn, and quartered. Later, his body was smuggled over to Germany by the faithful Father Corker. As the Blessed Oliver Plunkett addressed the great crowd gathered to witness the execution, his calmness and spiritual strength made so deep an impression that many wept and prayed. In 1721, Blessed Oliver Plunkett's head was brought back to Drogheda by Primate Hugh McMahon, and is now enshrined on an altar in St. Peter's Church, that his greatness may never be forgotten. And so it is that Drogheda possesses his shrine. Here thousands from all the world over come to pay tribute to the man whose life and death were dedicated to truth. 9 years after the martyrdom of Blessed Oliver Plunkett, another page in Ireland's history was written, the Battle of the Boyne. Here, in pasture lands which are among the richest in the country, the Irish fought for a cause they considered just. The Valley of the Boyne has been described as one of the most historic places in Ireland, the seat of kings, of parliament, and of famous monasteries. Slowly, the Drogheda of old is disappearing. The Martello Tower on Millmount is crumbling, and the city walls have gone. Only a few of the original whitewashed cottages remain. Together with the winding steps linking the high and low streets. The river front retains much of its early character, but many of the old buildings have gone. The old market is still the scene of great activity, selling the produce of the land as it has done for centuries. Until recently, the Tolsel was used for assizes, courts, and council meetings. But today, the administration of the borough of Drogheda is carried out by Alderman Walsh, the mayor, and 11 aldermen and councillors, in contact with the county manager and the borough surveyor in the council house. Only when in special session do the members wear their green and gold robes of office. Here are exemplified the advantages of wise local government by men who are of the people, whose welfare is their sole concern. Here then is the pulse of industrious Drogheda, the hub around which the daily life of the city revolves. Housing programs, roads, public health, education, marketing, and port management, these and countless other matters vital to the people are controlled by a council proudly carrying on all that is best in the traditions of the past for the benefit of the citizens of today and tomorrow. A treasured possession of the council is the Book of Freemen, containing the names of many famous people who have fought for Ireland's rights and freedoms. And in Drogheda's archives are kept the mace and sword presented by William III. mace is a perfect example of the work of the silversmith, and its costliness bears witness to Drooda's long-standing importance. For from the earliest period of municipal government, the town was considered, in privileges and political consequences, equal in status with Dublin, Waterford, Limerick and Cork. Other interesting treasures are the early charters or deeds of the town. This one granted by James II, and this by William III. The River Boyne has facilitated Drooda's commercial development more than any other factor. On the quayside, next to the customs house, is the harbour office, centre of river control. The harbour master is responsible for the piloting and berthing of ships and the maintenance of the river and the quays. A constant check is kept on the movements of all vessels entering and in the river. The Boyne rises on Carbery Hill, Kildare, but is navigable only by seagoing vessels from the mouth to Drogheda. Leading lights guide ships into the river channel, the point at which their beams cross indicating the way in. Administered by the Commissioners of Irish Lights, these at the mouth provide vantage points from which the keeper can watch the approach of vessels and keep headquarters informed. Once in the river, a vessel is kept to the channel by tall stone guides, which at night carry navigation lights. Between the guides, dredging is constantly carried out. A scheme is afoot for making a new channel that will shorten the journey from sea to quay by several miles, as indicated on the map. The approach of a ship has been reported and the pilots go to their boat. All vessels which visit the river only occasionally must be piloted safely across the bar and into the channel. Day and night, summer and winter, these men are on duty, ready to put to sea in any weather. Only they know how swiftly the wind can rise on this part of the coast and lash the sea into fury. Today, the job is easy. The pilot boat is with the arriving ship now, and she's moving into the river. Before 1759, the channel could only accommodate vessels up to 400 tons. Then the channel was dredged and the harbour completed, £2,000 being granted for the work, and a similar sum in 1761. Today, ships with a displacement up to 9,000 tons can negotiate the channel at high tide. The ship is now safely in the channel, and the pilot leaves the vessel, which proceeds unaided to Drogheda, as did St. Patrick centuries ago, passing these quiet wooded slopes and banks. Here is the position of the boat moving towards Drogheda. The site of this great viaduct indicates arrival at Drogheda. It was built by the Great Northern Railway in 1855. The slender arches, built of local stone, provide perfect frames for the pictures created by the town beyond. Although Drogheda is essentially progressive and is developing new industries, it does not discard old trades and customs, such as lifting cockles from the river bed when the tide goes out and sacking them for market. And the making of nets for catching the famous Boyne salmon, the fishermen doing this during the closed season. They use special tough string and work with a large wooden needle. Each knot is tied with a rapid twist of the wrist. All nets are finally tarred to preserve them. It was in the 17th century that linen manufacture was introduced into Ireland, since when it has become world famous. Here's a brief glimpse of the fascinating process in a Drogheda mill. Waxed threads are run onto a heavy roller which lays them in an ordered manner called warping. The loaded rollers are fed to the looms where the finest weaves are handled. Here materials are being dyed, rollers drawing them through the vat and squeezing out surplus liquid. As early as 1790, linens were Drogheda's principal export. The Drogheda for which gallant cavaliers of the Stuart dynasty and solemn iron-helmeted Cromwellians struck heavy blows can today boast of many modern factories and industries, such as making cattle cake from nut oil which comes from Africa. Ships bring the drums of oil right up to the factory. This industry has expanded rapidly and is important in relation to Ireland's self-sufficiency plan. By the way, owing to its geographical position, the port of Drogheda has always been one of the principal centres for the export of cattle from the adjoining county of Meath. Cement manufacture is a new and valuable addition to the town's industrial activities. Here's the quarry where blasting is taking place. A great digger weighing 128 tons lifts the stone, about 6 tons of bite, and dumps it into wagons. Overhead cable cars carry it off, 140 of them, on an endless journey. from quarry to factory, where it's crushed, mixed and made into cement for house building, which is being carried out at maximum speed. New houses demand new roads, miles of them, for Drogheda is growing apace, though its ancient parts are lovingly preserved. Standing at the entrance to the Boyne Valley, containing some of the richest agricultural land in the country, Drogheda is encircled by farms. Out of Ireland's entire working population of nearly 1.5 million, over 600,000 are employed in agriculture, all but a sixth being farmers and their families. Agriculture is the basis of economic planning. From 41 million in 1938, the net value of the output of farms in Ireland has risen to nearly 100 million pounds a year. And dairy farming is one of the most important and highly developed branches of the nation's agricultural activities, typified by this tubercular-tested hill town dairy herd near Drogheda. On Ireland's fine modern dairy farms, every scientifically approved device is employed to ensure scrupulous cleanliness and to expedite milking operations. Mechanical milking results in milk being delivered from cow to cooler without being touched by human hands. And it is this rich, pure milk which is supplied to Drogheda's new modern hospital, where maternity work and antenatal and postnatal departments are proving a boon to mothers from a wide area. They bring their babies for regular observation and receive expert advice on diet and all other matters from the sister doctors. On the floor above, new arrivals are asleep in their cots, blissfully unconscious of all the care bestowed upon them. The hospital was built by the Medical Missionaries of Mary and carries out an extensive training system for young sisters entering the medical profession in any or all of its branches. It is fully equipped with every modern improvement. And the finest X-ray apparatus. Here, a doctor is removing the plaster which has encased an arm for what has seemed centuries to its young owner. Now he will be able to rejoin his friends, not only for play, but for work too, in Drogheda's technical school, which supplements the work of the day schools and gives specialized training to the rising generation in a large number of trades and professions: mathematics, woodwork, science, engineering, chemistry, and so on. Girls, too, learn all branches of housewifery and qualify in domestic science, commercial subjects, dressmaking, and become experts in housecraft generally. Work hard and play hard is the axiom of Ireland's youth. From school to playing field for an invigorating game of camogie, which is encouraged among students attending vocational schools under the Department of Education. These young Irish girls are playing a game which in ancient Celtic times the Ulster hero Cuchulainn made famous. But the sport of sports, the sport of kings, the sport which indeed is also an industry, centres round the horse. An American truly said, "No country in the world is better suited than Ireland for breeding and raising horses, and no people more intelligent in breeding horses than the Irish." Horse breeding is the basis of a wide export trade. In 1944, nearly 3,400 horses were exported with a value of over £900,000. And in the hunting field, the Irish horse reveals his grace and strength. Iron-sinewed and satin-skinned, ribbed like a drum and limbed like a deer, fierce as the fire and fleet as the wind, there was nothing she couldn't climb or clear. The Drogheda we see now is as new as the sunrise, yet as old as the oldest hills. Its modern industries, houses, schools, hospitals, libraries, and ever-increasing population all create a unity and harmony of spiritual progress which is good to behold. And someone who prefers one-horse cart, affectionately known as the King of Drogheda. Having travelled the world, he has returned to the old town to devote his life to charity. Steeped in history, with foundations built on the faith of St. Patrick, it has won through the struggle of the centuries.